Foundation is back this week with the 4th episode of Season 3, and I think it's safe to say that this is the best episode so far this season. With there being a core theme of love and conflict at its core with Brother Day, Song, Dusk, Quint, Pritcher and Gaal, but also the idea of escaping being pivotal too, with Dawn leaving his position as he's about to ascend the middle throne, plus Day also heading off to Mycogen. This episode quite literally had it all, as Trantor looks to be in the weakest position that it's ever been. So with Demerzel programmed to protect Empire, she's quite literally failing because the others are acting so erratically. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode and break down the important details. Here is Foundation Season 3 Episode 4 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Demerzel's conflict. There were 2 scenes in this episode that I thought were the strongest, and this was one of them. The other was when Day recognized that Mavon was playing him in order to get the nanites to protect his daughter and was secretly working with Empire, but we'll get to that. This entire episode opened up with the maze that we saw Demerzel in during the first episode, where she was going through the complexities of how she was feeling and that she was fearing what her purpose would be if Empire were to fall in the 4 months as predicted. This opening shot of the maze wasn't only symbolic of the complexity of that thought process that she was going through, placing her at the center of it, but I also feel it was representative of the state of mind that Demerzel was in, her programming, and the many different scenarios and feelings, if one can call them that she had. She revealed that she was behind the attack where one of the cat paws was destroyed by the bombers where millions of people died. She did this because she was programmed to put the preservation of Empire before anything else, and she felt that in the short term, the Foundation had to be created and survive rather than be destroyed, which is what Brother Day wanted to do back then. However, now, in the long term, the Foundation is basically an enemy of Empire, so there's a paradox there that's not truly been thought of before. Demerzel mentioned how she was essentially built to watch and to remember, and when Varela said to her that she watched on like it was nothing, she responded and said how it was actually everything. There's been a lot of focus around Demerzel being an it by the likes of Brother Day, and how she doesn't have the ability to feel. But what we've seen with her, especially in this season, is that through the tragedies that she's witnessed and also had a hand in, it has caused her to feel some kind of pain in the suffering. She didn't say it, but you could tell that there was an ounce of regret that she was feeling when it came to the cat paw. We also saw that Demerzel feared what she'd be going through if Empire did fall and were to be left in a position where she wasn't able to die, stuck, devoid of any purpose because Cleon programmed her to protect Empire against her will. So now there was almost this hunger within her to go back to her original programming and to be in control herself so that she could be reincarnated with a different purpose. This scene essentially reached its climax when she revealed her original face and told Varelis that she was mistaking her for a human, showing that she was almost in denial about these feelings and that because she wasn't human, she wasn't able to feel those things. But what I will say is it's clear to see that something has happened along the way, where whether it's the neglect that she's facing from Dusk, the being referred to as an it and the comparison to household kitchen appliances by Day, there are feelings that are inside of Demerzel and are taking hold. Demerzel is by far the most complex character in this season of the show, shortly followed by Brother Day, and I'm so intrigued to see where she's going to go with it, especially now with the throne sitting empty and Dusk also about to be destroyed. Trantor is at the weakest that it's been, which would essentially mean that she's failing. Pritcher is a Mentalic. After the opening scene, we saw that Pritcher was revealed to be a Mentalic when he returned to Terminus and was alongside Gaal, even showing that there was a romantic connection between them. Pritcher was secretly a part of the Second Foundation, and we saw that he exhibited his abilities by showing Gaal and Preem Palva what he saw when he was inside of the club on Calgon. I really liked this scene because there were a few tells to the type of character that the Mule was. Preem called out that he picked a club full of people because the Mule was lonely and wanted to be surrounded by them. This is something that also ties back into episode 2, where we saw him say that soon the people of Calgon and also the entire galaxy would come to love him. The Mule has definitely gone through some issues in the past, and as we know from the novel, he was ostracized when he was younger and picked on because of his appearance. So it's almost like his environment and the harsh treatment that he faced from people has made him have this lack of regard for others, because it's as if they deserve it. But what Preem also said was that the music was one of the most powerful things in the room. amplifying his powers, keeping everybody under control, and how it didn't even need to be heard because it could be felt in the nerves. Within the novels, the Visisona was said to be able to put entire populations under the control of the Mule, so it would make sense if that was the case in this. I'm going to be discussing a theory on the Mule here based on what Pritcher said, so if you don't want to know about it because it does tie into the books, then skip ahead to this time. When Pritcher was reporting back on the club, he said it's like he had the whole place hypnotized, and as he said that, it cut to Magnifico almost orchestrating the room, not the Mule. So with this theory going around about Magnifico being a puppet master and actually being the Mule, and the one that we've come to know as the Mule being somebody that Magnifico has just placed under his control, I wonder if this is a subtle nod to that. I think it could be. Pritcher and Gaal's time together was one that was filled with them being intimate with one another, but Pritcher was also speaking of the future and essentially wanting to share a life with Gaal, asking her to marry him, which I thought was a bit surprising. To me, this showed the difference in both of the characters. Gaal is looking to preserve and fight against the Mule, whereas Pritcher was almost looking to just make the most of the time that they had left and was giving up before it started. So to me, it just shows that the both of them won't actually work. Gaal has bigger fish to fry right now, and maybe Pritcher will eventually see that, but he's not at the minute. With news of the vault opening in less than a few days and the third crisis, which is the civil war between the traders and the Foundation, being on the horizon, it's going to be interesting to see how they react to Seldon emerging. Brother Day's escape. Like I said earlier, Brother Day's story is just behind Demerzel's in this season of the show because of the complex that he has in his mind. He's so different from Day in Season 2 that Lee Pace genuinely feels like he's playing a completely different character. The first moment where we saw Day was when he was speaking with the memory of Cleon I, and he wanted to know why it was that he went to Mycogen in 26 CE. It turned out that there were a set of tools that were Demerzel's, which we saw her using in the scene that followed, and Day wanted to retrieve them for her because he was in love with her. The people on Mycogen believed that they were holy relics and refused to give them up, so Day responded with force and killed around 20,000 people. Day left by spitting on the floor in front of the memory of Cleon I, and I think this was symbolic of the mindset that he had towards the entirety of Empire. We've seen him grow a distaste towards Demerzel and the actions that she did in wiping the memory of Song and sending her back, and also when he said no one can escape Empire, not even Empire. He feels just as much of a prisoner there as to what Demerzel does, so pair that with the fact that a previous version of him was what slaughtered thousands of people there. He was disgusted. This was then when we saw Mavon and Day escape to the border, where Mavon promised to help Day get to Mycogen in return for the nanites in Day so that they'd be able to cure his daughter of the illness that she had. There was this tension that was underpinning this entire scene, and it came to a climax when Day fired his weapon at Mavon because it turned out that Mavon was playing Day and he was secretly working with Empire in revealing that he was going to be leaving. He flashed his lights, which was a tell that he wasn't going to be loyal, so he ended up killing Mavon for his betrayal. I think you could see that there was this ounce of hurt inside of Day, as he did say sorry before he did it, as they were once both friends. But again, like how Demerzel has to put Empire first, Mavon felt like he had to as well. So Empire does cause pain to those that are loyal to it. Brother Day took the nanites, which essentially made it seem like he'd been killed or died, and with the tool that he took from Demerzel, which was once stolen from the people of Mycogen, I believe he's taken it so he can return it as a gesture of goodwill so that he doesn't get met with hostility. Day finished off by saying, "I'm gonna see how far I can go," and to be honest, it seems like in this moment he's got the same mindset as Pritch and just wanting to make the most of the time that he's got left. What's interesting about this is that there'll be no Day on Trantor, but if Demerzel brings a new Day and a new Dawn to the throne, then there'll be two of their kind that are out there, which could make for an interesting dynamic. The Civil War has already been spoken about for the traders and the Foundation, but Empire could have a civil war itself between the two new versions of Day and Dawn and the iterations that have been at the heart of the season. Dawn and Gaal's plan. As well as Day escaping, we also saw Dawn escaping Trantor as well. Empire is in disarray at the moment because Dusk, Dawn and Day have all had different opinions on what to take seriously and how to best approach the Mule and the threat of an impending darkness in 4 months' time. Dawn is the only one that's thinking proactively, hence why he's got this alliance with Gaal despite not even truly knowing who she is. Dawn was followed by guards in this episode to his meeting spot where Gaal actually attended this time and didn't project herself, but with them being followed, it meant that the plan that Gaal had of wanting Dawn to leave Trantor and to go to Ignus with her now needed to be accelerated. This was where Gaal showed her mentalic abilities to Dawn, and that she had the ability of wiping the guards' memories of them hunting them, and that she could also make them invisible too. This was what enabled him to trust her more and ultimately walk away from the prospect of sitting on that middle throne, something that he's always wanted, and being awoken as day. This showed that he was thinking more of the safety of Empire than he was himself. Like I said earlier though, the thrones can't sit empty. So more will be awoken, and I genuinely think it'll cause some issues because we'll see the likes of Dawn being out there looking to work on a way to stop the darkness, and he'll be met with hostility when he returns. He's basically committed an act of treason. A review of the episode. I thought this was a phenomenal episode of the show, the best in the season and one of the best in the entire run of the 3 seasons of the show. I absolutely loved the symbolism in the opening scene, and the conflict that we saw with Demerzel within her programming was just gripping. And I also loved the scene where Day killed Mavon. It was just gorgeous to watch. There was tension and fear throughout all of it, and you just knew that something was going to go wrong. The darkness, the mist in the background, it just had all the makings of double crossing, and it was executed in the most perfect of ways. Even the silence, but the occasional beating of a drum added the feeling and mood that the scene needed for it to land in the way that it did. The core theme of love, but also escape, was something that felt so clear to see when watching this episode. Dusk had this moment with Quinn where he said how he wished that he told her that he had the Prime Radiant, and then they embraced. We knew that they were friends, but I'm presuming that he's actually in love with her, and that could also be a reason as to why he doesn't want to be disposed of, because he knows that he's going to be walking away from somebody that he truly cares about. We also saw Day going to extreme lengths for love in betraying Empire, and Pritch looking to disregard his mission in order to be with Gaal. So that focus on feeling, something that on the other side with Demerzel it's been made out like she can't, was truly felt. The contrast was just so clear to see. What I'd say this episode felt like was that final moment of peace. I think the next episode is going to be one that really leans into all of the chaos that's on the horizon and the multiple different battles that we're going to be seeing taking place across all corners of the galaxy. In terms of the performances, just like I say most weeks, Demerzel and Brother Day were my favourite characters, and I thought they were performed the best. I'd give this week to Brother Day. The contrast from being loving with Mavon's family to then standing there and killing him was something that I thought was just so well done. I wouldn't even say it was anger that he was emitting, but it was almost like a fed up nature that he had where he just didn't care anymore, and it was just performed so well. He's really showing just how good he is in this season of the show. I can't actually believe that we're not even halfway through this season yet and we've had this much drama. It's a show that really does help cement Apple TV as the place for great sci-fi shows, and it's just getting better and better each and every week. So, there you have it, Foundation Season 3 Episode 4 Ending Explained.